All right, notice how I've started back out with my chapter 1 equation sheet. We're going to add to it for this lesson for 1, 2, which is overtime pay. The new equation I'm going to add is the following. Overtime pay equals overtime rate and make a little side note here. We're going to come back to this and put a little dot there. We're going to come back, kind of start up here. Times your overtime hours worked. Now, in order to find your overtime rate, this little thing that we start right here, we're going to have to find our hourly rate times the type of overtime. All right. Here's where it gets a little tricky. There are two types of overtime. Well, two that we actually talk about. Our types of overtime are time and a half, which is times 1.5. Or you could have what we call double time, and that is a multiplication of 2. Next equation, total pay equals straight time pay plus overtime pay. So think about it this way. Once you've hit your maximum number of hours for the week, what they'll do is they'll pay you extra for any hours that you work over, kind of like an incentive. Okay? And that's where we get this overtime rate. And the two most common ones are time and a half and double time. Okay? There were 3 vocab words on the previous slide. Let's talk about those. Overtime pay. This is extra pay for hours worked beyond the regular number of hours. Time and a half. I saw that word right here. An overtime pay rate of 1.5 times the regular hourly rate. Double time. See that? An overtime pay rate of twice the regular hourly rate. So we got overtime pay, which is pay beyond your for extra hours beyond your regular hours. Overtime, time and a half is times 1.5, the regular hourly rate. And double time is twice the regular hourly rate. Let's dive into some examples. Let's go back to that example sheet that I had given you for 1-1. You'll see example 3 written down there. Let's take a look at it. Alan Moore is paid $8.20 an hour for a regular 40-hour work week. So $8.20 an hour for a regular 40 hours. Okay, that's important. His overtime rate, oh look, these keywords are coming out now. 1.5 times. And this week he worked his regular 40 plus 10 hours of overtime. What's his total? Okay, there's a lot of things to decipher here. The first thing I notice whenever I go back and I look at my equation sheet, in order to find the total pay, I have to know straight time and I have to know overtime. I do not have either one of those right now. So let's start by finding the straight time pay. That's what we did in the previous lesson, where we take our hourly rate and we multiply by our regular hours worked. So I'm going to put STP, straight time pay. Okay. STP. Remember that equals our hourly rate, which is $8.20, times the regular number of hours of work, which is 40. So my straight time pay should be $8.20 times 40. I'm getting $328 for straight time pay. All right. Now, got this. Check. Don't have this. I've got to work through all of this somehow, okay? So let's take it piece by piece. We got to find our overtime rate, but in order to find our overtime rate, we have to have our hourly rate and our type of overtime. Okay. Well, I know my hourly rate. I just used it for the first part, $8.20. Okay. What was his type of overtime? It said his overtime rate is the 1.5 times. So it's going to be a times 1.5. And then times the number of hours that we work. Okay, so that's a lot. Let's take this step by step. We're going to call this OTP, overtime pay. Okay. I'm going to take my overtime rate, which I find by taking my hourly rate. So I'm going to do this in parentheses. Take my hourly rate, which was $8.20, times the 1.5, because he gets paid time and a half, basically. And then times the number of hours we work overtime. It says we worked 10 hours of overtime. So we would multiply by 10. I'm going to do this all in one swoop. I'm not going to equal and then multiply again. I'm just going to do it all at once, okay? So we got $8.20 times 1.5 times 10. $123 in overtime pay. And I really, look at this. I should have went back and I put a dollar sign there and a dollar sign here. Sorry. But have I answered my question? I don't think I've answered the question, because the question asked me, what's my total pay? I see straight time, I see overtime, but I don't see total. So we're going to now have to go back to our equation sheet. Total pay equals your straight time plus your overtime. Well, I have those now. So total pay equals 328 plus 123. I'm getting $451. So my final answer is this answer right here. All the rest of it was just work to get to that point. I'm going to tell you where I'm going to see the biggest problems. This step right here. This is always the trickiest. It always catches everybody. So please make sure you're careful when you get to this point and you remember to do this step right here. Don't forget. I want you to take about 5 minutes to work through try these on your own. We're going to try to find some overtime pay now. Take about 5 minutes to work through try these on your own. As you can see, the answers have now been provided. On to our next set of questions.